The Sun and Moon Tower had a rule: they didn't entertain strangers. You either had to be well known or introduced by someone they trusted. Every transaction also required a prior appointment. Of course, there were exceptions, usually emergencies. But in such cases, an extra fee was charged. As Dustin approached the main entrance of the Sun and Moon Tower, he was stopped by the security guards on both sides. After verifying his identity, they let him in. Once inside, a sweet-looking female attendant led Dustin through the main hall and straight to the back courtyard. After passing a small garden with a pond, they stopped in front of a quiet private room. "This is the boss's private guest room. Please, Mr. Dustin," the attendant said with a smile. "Your boss isn't here?" Dustin asked curiously. "She had something to take care of but will be here shortly. Please feel free to rest for a moment," the attendant replied with the same polite smile. "All right then." Dustin nodded and stepped into the private room. The room was spacious and decorated in an antique style with a refined atmosphere. A faint fragrance filled the air, refreshing and uplifting, putting one in a good mood. On the table, there were already snacks and warm tea waiting. Dustin looked around and his gaze eventually settled on a bookshelf against the wall. The bookshelf held a wide variety of rare and valuable books from different fields. After scanning through, Dustin picked out a collection titled Legends of the Ages. As the name implied, the book documented legendary figures throughout history. Some had ruled over regions, some achieved peerless feats, and some were simply unbeatable. 1,000 years ago, a lone swordsman defended an entire city, keeping 100,000 troops at bay. There was a celestial who could move mountains and suppress demons to stop floods. A beggar who, after 3 hearty laughs, stepped into the gates of heaven and ascended in broad daylight. Every character mentioned in the book was a legend. Flipping to the more recent times, Dustin saw a familiar name, Zhang Xuanji of Longhu Mountain. Years ago, during demon-slaying event of Jiazi, the entire martial world was shaken. The 3 major demonic sects, once at their peak, were wiped out overnight and never heard from again. From that moment on, Zhang Xuanji rose to the top of the supreme rankings, and no one had ever managed to dethrone him. The book also recorded a great deal of background information on Zhang Xuanji. In truth, before the demon-slaying event of Jiazi, he wasn't well known. He spent his days idly, either napping or wandering about, never once seen seriously cultivating. But when he learned that his master had been killed by a demonic sect, he snapped. Armed with just a single sword, he annihilated the entire sect in one night. None survived. Dustin sat in a chair, flipping through the pages with great interest. The divine feats described in the book sparked his admiration. He couldn't help but wonder, would his name ever be recorded in this legendary tome? "Sorry to keep you waiting." At that moment, Margaret walked in, wearing a veil. She glanced at the book in Dustin's hand but said nothing. Instead, she took a seat opposite him and poured 2 cups of tea. "I just arrived too," Dustin said with a smile as he returned the book to the shelf. "You called me here so urgently. What's the matter?" "I just received some intel concerning your safety, and I paid quite a price to verify whether it was true or not," Margaret said with deep meaning. "You're not seriously going to charge me for this, are you?" Dustin raised an eyebrow. "Of course I am. And double, too," Margaret replied boldly. "Come on, we've been through life and death together. Charging me feels a bit too cold, don't you think?" Dustin said, exasperated. "Friendship is friendship, business is business. Out there, sure, we can talk favors. But in the Sun and Moon Tower, it's strictly business. That's the rule." Margaret smiled. "So that's why you insisted on meeting here. You're ruthless." Dustin wore a mock expression of regret, like he'd been betrayed by a friend. "No choice. Business is business." Margaret shrugged. "But since we're friends, I can give you a discount." "Discount or not, I've got no money," Dustin said bluntly. "No worries. You can owe me. Pay it back when you can," Margaret said with ease. "Never realized you were such a money grubber." Dustin rolled his eyes. "With a big family business to run, I've got to make every coin count. And come on, this little info fee is nothing for someone like you." Margaret giggled, her smile charming. All right. I'll owe you. Now tell me, what's the intel?" Dustin sighed and gave in. "Your actions in West Lacosia a few days ago have alarmed the higher-ups of the Pantheon gods," Margaret said, her smile fading as her tone grew serious. "From what I've found, they see you as a threat due to your potential, and they've decided to eliminate you. They've already dispatched 2 God Kings, and they're nearly in Estonia as we speak.
And just can't accept it. This can't be the end yet. You promised to never leave, and now you're gone. Can't believe I can feel the world slipping away as you slowly fade from my everyday. You promised forever, a love without end, but now I'm left broken, struggling to mend. I thought we were so tight, destined for a lifetime, love with no end, love with no end. Stay